I've been waiting for Outpost for a long time, and now that it's here, I wish I was still waiting. Outpost is a terrific game. Its only problem is that it's not all there. This incomplete version is just as much of a tease as the demo I saw 3 months ago.
No kidding. I thought this was supposed to be the final version, but this is a beta in a cardboard box. Outpost promises great things, but it's been sabotaged by large bugs and an all-too-hasty release. For the few of you who don't yet know the premise of Outpost, it goes something like this. About 50 years from now, it's discovered that a large asteroid is on a collision course with Earth. The impact will wipe out most life on the planet. An attempt is made to shatter the asteroid with a nuclear warhead, but this only splits it into 2 pieces which will both impact on Earth. Mankind's only hope for survival is to launch a seed ship and found an off-world colony.
I liked the hard science approach and the fact that the game uses actual NASA data. Everything you do in this game is really being researched now, and that's a nice change of pace for space games.
Your first task is to pick 4 star systems to send probes to in the hope of finding a suitable planet. At this point, it becomes obvious that although the manual is packed full of that trademark Sierra wit, it contains practically no useful information. Most of the data you receive about the star systems, like the type of star, is never explained, so it's useless.
I couldn't believe that skimpy little book was the entire manual. It tells you nothing. The funny thing is, the 386-page strategy book doesn't tell you much more.
Yeah, I can see a lot of humor in that.
Once the probes are launched, you must decide what equipment to take with you. Since at this point you hardly have a clue where you're going to, it's hard to make an informed choice regarding what to pack. The inability to unload any of the preset components didn't do much for my enjoyment of this part of the game.
I can't really call this phase a game. The game doesn't start until you get to your target planet. This preliminary foolishness sounded a lot more interactive in the pre-release hype. When you stop at Saturn to refuel, you receive data from your 4 probes. Not much, though. If you're confused, you can ask the artificial intelligence of the game which system to go to. Usually the AI will recommend a system you haven't sent a probe to. Thanks for the useless advice.
You were right about the preliminary stuff. Yes, it sets up the game, but they could have made it fun to play. When you arrive at the system you selected, you pick a planet to colonize and launch any orbital satellites you thought to bring with you. This is one of many points in the game where you'll be treated to cutscenes of the various satellites, ships, and robots in the game. These scenes are nothing short of dazzling, beautifully rendered in 3D Studio. Impressive, aren't they?
The animations are awesome. Put some Strauss behind them and you've got 2001 for your PC. On a fast PC with a speedy video cards, these scenes are just beautiful. Once you decide on a planet to call home, you must pick a landing site. Those red dots are potential mining sites, which you'll need if you want to do radical things like build stuff.
Building is good, especially in a game like this. But as important as the mineral resources are, you'll also have to consider the terrain you'll be settling near. For some reason, building on impossible terrain doesn't work too well.
Found that out the hard way, didn't you?
Hey, I wasn't the one saying, "Why can't I colonize a gas giant?"
When your seed factory lands, the game really starts. The seed factory generates 4 structures automatically. A very limited power facility, a smelter, a factory, and your command center, which is where you'll get most of your reports from. The seed factory also supplies you with 3 robots, a miner, a dozer, and a digger. Tell them what they win, Bob.
Well, the miner's use is obvious, and you don't have to be a SimCity graduate to figure out what the dozer's for. Your first task of the digger is to create an air shaft and an elevator to an underground level where you'll place structures not suited for the harsh planetary surface. After a few turns, you'll be able to bring down a few pods full of colonists and cargo. This will give you the materials you need for your first few buildings and the people to construct them. The first things to be built are usually an agricultural dome and a chap facility. These give your colonists air to breathe and food to eat.
People like that.
Building a power plant will likely be your next step, since the puny power source the seed factory provides you with can easily leave you in the dark.
Not everything you took will come with you. You'll quickly find out that some of the colonists have defected and taken some supplies with them to form a rebel colony.
Clicking on your command center will pull up your executive report, which will give you a good, concise overview of your situation. You'll get important figures like how much of your power supply you're using, whether your chap is producing enough air or not, and how much food you're producing and storing, and how your morale is doing. A click on your population figure will give you a more detailed description, allowing you to get a grip on your workforce and birth rate.
If you can keep your morale up, keep most of your people employed, and stay stocked with resources, you're doing okay. The executive report is informative and well organized, but in general this game needs more reports.
We'll get to that later.
Hey, just trying to help out. One of the best things about Outpost is the way it handles technology. When you build labs, you assign them to general research or to a field of specialized research. The topics, which range from terraforming to nanotechnology to human behavior, are interrelated, so research in a number of fields will be needed to get results. Keep your scientists busy enough and you'll wind up with improved production, the ability to terraform your planet's atmosphere, and even the option to build another starship and pillage another helpless planet.
The technology tree is great. There's a lot out there to discover. Civilization proved that the ability to discover new things to build is definitely a key selling point for a game like this. Like in most other sim games, one of Outpost's challenges is resource management. Here, Outpost adds a wonderful twist. It's called a SPEW, a futuristic waste recycling facility which boosts morale by its very presence. Once a SPEW has been built, any structure you bulldoze will be converted into multi-purpose goo, or MPG. MPG can then be used to take the place of any resource you are lacking.
I like that, and it's hard to abuse, too. If you go around bulldozing buildings just to get MPG, you're going to destroy stuff you need, so you can't cheat and make a massive stockpile of MPG. That's good.
Factories in Outpost come in two flavors, those that are above ground and those that are not. Factories on the planet's surface produce robots, while underground factories produce luxury goods like 8-track tapes, bowling shoes, and whoopee cushions.
Luxury items do a good job of keeping people happy, but to distribute them you'll need some commercial structures. That's techno-speak for general store. Apart from the items they produce, factories provide employment for your workers, which for some bizarre reason makes them happy. One unique addition to your underground levels is the red light district. Colonists need to have fun, and a red light district will boost your morale by 2 as well as give the birth rate a shot in the arm. They also increase the crime rate, and if the crime rate gets too high, your residential units will start spontaneously changing into red light districts.
It's too bad there's no way of seeing what your crime rate is before your residences go porno. A crime and police protection report would have been a good idea.
I told you this thing needed more reports.
Once I had my colony started, I decided to examine some of the systems more closely, starting with the mines. Put simply, the mining system is victimized. In order for resources to be used, they must go from the mines to the smelter to be processed. There are two means of transport, by monorail or by automated trucks which run on roads you construct. I was shocked and a little more than confused to find that the monorail system had been left out of the game, as had the roads. The trucks are there, for all the good they do. What the heck is going on here?
I called Sierra, the first of many, many times, and asked them about the absent transport system. Apparently, all transportation is automatic.
I'm beginning to sense a work in progress here.
How does this work?
Yeah, Outpost will be finished 6 months after its release.
Wake up, Sierra.
Not to harp on one point, but let's talk about those wacky mines some more. Each planet has up to 4 underground levels that can be dug to. To increase the resources you get from a mine, you can dig it down to the next level. That's the good news. The stinky, rotten, evil, bad news is that as soon as the top layer of a mine is depleted, the entire mine ceases to produce.
Is it just me, or is that ludicrous in the extreme?
And to make matters worse, the mine keeps generating bogus reports. Clicking on a tapped-out mine shows its status is depleted, but its production is 15 resources per turn, which is the production level of a healthy mine.
Hello out there.
Mission Control, can you hear me?
Remember that rebel colony? If you keep your morale high enough, those rebels will eventually defect to your colony, and you'll inherit their ghost town, which you can either reactivate or bulldoze and collect some MPG. Looking at their colony, I was dumbfounded. It was not built logically, correctly, or even possibly. In fact, if you had tried to build your colony like this, the computer wouldn't let you. Buildings have to be connected by tubes to allow air and colonists to pass between them.
Try telling that to the rebels. I even saw an underground level with no air shaft to get to it.
Sierra's response to this little inconsistency was,
Well, they play smarter on higher difficulty levels.
to top it off, they hadn't built one mine. According to Sierra,
It's set up so that the rebels don't have to mine.
now I don't mean to nitpick, but isn't that, cheating?
Just because they don't need resources to survive? Yeah, you're nitpicking. This is your AI. It's a helpful little tool that organizes reports for you, clips headlines from the colony newspaper, and warns you of incoming natural disasters, which I've never encountered. That's about all it does, although it was supposed to do much more. After climbing to a certain point on the research tree, you're supposed to be able to assign other AIs to parts of your colony to take some of the managerial load off your shoulders. You were even supposed to be able to put them to work helping scientists in the labs.
That would have been awesome.
Bruce Balfour must have thought so. There's a whole chapter in the strategy book devoted to this. Unfortunately, it's just one of the many things that got left out of Outpost so Sierra could get it out the door this summer. But hey, they finished all the cutscenes, so at least they took care of the important stuff first.
Sierra should be ashamed of themselves for hacking this wonderful game to death. I don't know who made the decision to rush Outpost out the door before it was even close to being finished, but it's a good thing they don't play soccer for Columbia. At this point, I can't really recommend Outpost to anybody. Casual gamers wouldn't appreciate a game of its complexity and scope, and those who would appreciate it will quickly become annoyed past the point of tolerance by the many bugs and missing features. What this game needs is patch discs up the wazoo to make a finished product out of this crippled, should-have-been shareware release.
When I talked to them, nobody at Sierra was sure if they were going to put out patches for Outpost or not.
If they don't, the game's as good as dead.
If Sierra finishes what they started, Outpost will be a game worthy of more praise than I could ever heap on it. As it is, it's garbage and you should stay away from it.
At least they've invented an entirely new terminology. First there was vaporware, then there was shovelware, now there's doorware. That's software that's so late and so far over budget that the company boots it out the door incomplete just to bring in some badly needed bugs. History in the making, folks.